Hello, darlings, and welcome to Wake Up and Show Up Live. This is your daily show, giving you a daily dose of inspiration and empowerment. I am your host, Portia Scott. So, how are you guys doing today? I'm super excited. Val, thank you so much for joining, darling. As always, it is noontime. I'm so excited because I just finished doing a little schoolwork, and I feel like my help is coming on. Like I think at the beginning of the week, I was like a little bit overwhelmed because for the last 2 weeks, one of my kids had spring break 2 weeks ago, and then the other one had spring break last week. So having them both together this week, I just needed to get my mind and my organization together. So I feel like I got it together a little bit. So good morning, darling. How are you? So how is everyone doing today? I just want to check in. I thought about this the other day and I was just like, sometimes we just should check on one another, and yesterday I had the opportunity to check on a couple of people, and just ask them, how are you doing? And I think that's okay. Especially now, I think it's okay to check in. And so I am asking you all, not just to tell me where you're watching from, but also how are you doing, darlings? Because I know that it is kind of up and down. Everything's different. So just checking in. Want you guys to know that I care about you. And so I'm checking in. And so as I'm checking in, where are you watching from? Where are you staying at home at? Let me know, let me know, let me know. I'm live on Periscope. However, I cannot see when you come into the room because I don't have my phone up. But if you can let me know by putting something in the chat just to say hello, let me know where it is that you're watching from. Hello, 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 everybody coming in. And so one of the things that we love to do here is we love to partner with organizations. We love to partner with people. I think last week we had the, what did we call it? A release package or something. I forgot what we called it, but we were able to bless a couple of people. There were a couple of things we asked you guys to do. You guys did them. We were able to send some money in people's hand. And so those are the things that directly impact people. But this particular week, I always take a organization or someone that's doing something, and I love to share it with you guys. And so this particular week, we are supporting Team Love. And Team Love is partnering with, actually, it's called Direct Relief. And it is a nonprofit organization, and they rush critical medical supplies to communities in need, to disadvantaged communities, as well as healthcare organizations that work in these communities that don't always have access to things that seem to be normal for us. So it's a lot of poverty-stricken communities, but they go in, they do the work, they bring healthcare supplies. And as it relates to COVID-19, those vulnerable communities need it most. And so we are partnering with them. Hey, Trey, thank you so much for joining, darling. So as we begin to just partner with different people and do all of that stuff, I think it's super duper important. I think one of the things that as human beings, and you kind of see it even more as we are in this COVID-19 situation, is that we see people being people and caring about people. I think it's so easy for us to go about our normal days and know that there's stuff going out into the world, but what is the thing that pushes us? And I think that this has pushed us a little bit more to think of people as people. And so I think it's so important when we get to partner, when we get to help out another organization. I always love to say that you may not be able to feed 5,000, but you can feed one, honey. And that is the power of one. So I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for joining. One, let me know, where are you watching from? Where are you quarantined at? Where are you staying at home at? I know it feels like it's day 435,672, but I think it's been a month, right? A little over a month. I think on March 13th was the day that I know I think March 12th was the day that the president put the ban on European countries from traveling. The 13th, my kids' school was like, we're going, direct learning or digital learning. So I think we're about a month in, and you guys are doing good. We are pushing forward. So thank you so much. One of the things that we talked about yesterday was really talking about keep looking. And we talked about keep looking because it was really built on what I was thinking about is that oftentimes we are in these situations, right? Like your girl has not been to Target inside a Target since March 13th. And that's a thing. And so I think we're all kind of dealing with just the stresses of different things and what's going on and what this looks like for our family. And so I think it's easy for us to just not want to do anything, which is absolutely incredibly fine. I think there is a time of rest. I think there is a time that we should rest. I think we have time that we have to take care of ourselves. But I also think that there is oftentimes we want to know the outcome before we start. We want to know the outcome before we move. We want to know the outcome before we make a decision. And that's the thing, is that you don't always have to know in order to start. And so yesterday we talked about losing keys, and we talked about how do we continue to do what we do? How do we continue to start? How do we continue to keep looking? And so today I want to let you know that you can absolutely start. And for me, I will tell you that my archetype, that my behavior type is the perfectionist. And so with that behavior type, I have an aversion to risk. I do not like risk. I like things to be spelled out. I like things to be written out. I like to see the plan. I like to know that the plan has been tried and tested and approved, and that it can do it over and over again. And so that's one of the things that for me is hard. Whenever I'm trying to start something, it's very hard for me to start because usually I overanalyze what I've already analyzed. And it's funny because I also have a tendency of jumping in head first and then pulling back and saying, I probably shouldn't have made that decision because I realized there's risk side to it. And initially I didn't feel the risk or whatever it was, but initially I'll go in head first or I'll overthink it. And so I want to know, and I'm asking this question, why don't you start? Like, what are you afraid of? What is something that you are afraid of doing, afraid of failing at, but you really want to do it? And I think that it's so important that we know what it is that we're afraid of, right? I mean, the biggest thing that we always hear is that people are so afraid to fail, but there's also people that are afraid to succeed or afraid of what that would look like. And so I think it's important that we understand what are those things that cause us to really have pause? What are those things that cause us to really stop and say, I can't do that, or whatever the narrative is that we're playing in our mind so that we don't start. And sometimes, to be quite honest, the fear is really the thing that we rely on. So we say, oh, I'm afraid to start, or I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid to succeed. I'm afraid people are going to laugh at me. I'm afraid nobody's going to show up. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose money. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose this. I'm afraid that it's going to be more problems. I'm going to have more stress. I'm going to have more overwhelm. And so it really does become the reason why we don't start, and we rely on it to say, oh, well, I didn't start. I'm just scared. I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready to do anything. And so we allow it to be a crutch. And so I do ask, what is it that you are afraid of? What is the thing? I have kids, y'all. And so he's like, what are you doing? I have, and so I think it's really important that we understand what are we afraid of, And I think for me, a lot of times it's not just on lives or on my podcast, because I do a lot of stuff where I'm kind of out in the open. And so one of the things that I'm afraid of is people will not show up, not show up for to listen to the podcast or to watch the live shows or to watch anything I do. But I think what it is when I say I'm afraid people won't show up, is I'm afraid that my message won't resonate with people the way that I feel like I want it to resonate, right? And so that's something that definitely does stop me from doing certain things. And so when I thought about this and how to kind of work through this and what should happen, we were not sure on March 13th. We didn't know what quarantine was going to look like. We didn't know what staying at home was going to look like. Many of us thought, okay, this will be a 2-week thing. The whole 14-day thing was thrown around all the time. And so a lot of us thought, well, hey, 14 days, I could do anything for 14 days, but 14 days turned into 30 days. And I will tell you the reason why this started. This was something my husband had talked about for a while. And he was like, Portia, you love live, you love being out, you love motivating people. Why don't you start a daily show? So he had said this way before. Hi, Myrna. How are you, darling? He had said this way before I ever started it. And I kept putting it off and saying, I don't have time. I don't have time. And then 2 weeks happened. And I was like, oh, okay, well, it looks like we're going to be here for a little while. I have time. And not only do I have time, but I thought it was perfect timing while we're home and while we all need some inspiration, but also encouragement, which I like to say is inspiration to do. And so when you think about what the thing you are afraid of. And so I remember when I was in the military, and you had to learn how to not only shoot your weapon, but you had to be a marksman. You had to understand what that looks like. You had to understand how to hit a target, right? And so I remember the first time we were going to the range, and I was a nervous wreck on the inside, because you guys know I'm like to show it all on the outside, but on the inside, I was so nervous. Going to the range, I was like, what if somebody shoots me by mistake? What if something happens? What if I shoot somebody? Like, there were all these scenarios that were playing on in my head. And one of the things that they told us and that they teach you before you ever fire your weapon is to take a deep breath. Why? Because it calms you down. It calms you down. And the more and more we went to the range, the more and more I got comfortable with what I could do with that particular weapon. I was proficient in it. I understood how to clean it. I understood how to be safe with it. I understood all of these things that when I first went into it, I would have rathered somebody had shown me at the end that I was going to know how to do it, that I was going to be fine, that I wasn't going to kill anyone, that anyone wasn't going to kill me, that they had put up parameters and barriers in place to make sure that you have to actually do it on purpose in order to shoot somebody. And so I use that example because when we do something, even in that thing of fear, the more and more we do it, even if we are afraid to start, the more and more we do it, the more comfortable we become, the more secure, the more confident we become in who we are. And oftentimes our fear is not necessarily what we're doing, but it is, am I good enough to do it? And that was my thing. Am I good enough to handle this weapon? Am I good enough to be able to shoot it? It turns out I am. But anyway, but I use that because it is important that, your hands may be sweaty, your heartbeat may be up and elevated, but it is so important that we put a name on that thing that's scaring us. I'm scared of people. Hello, darling. Thank you so much for joining, Mom. That we put a name on it. I'm afraid of people. I'm afraid what people will say. I'm afraid what people will do. I'm afraid that somebody's going to bring up my past. I'm afraid that people knew in high school I wasn't as smart or I didn't appear as smart. I'm afraid that when I'm going to feel like a fraud, imposter syndrome, I'm going to feel like, my skill isn't good enough. I'm afraid that I'm going to fail in front of everybody because I've always been the person that was on top. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose money because I've I've always held on to my money. Whatever that is, it's so important to put a name on it, because once you can identify it, it no longer has a hold on you. It no longer can arrest you because it's out there now. I can see you. I already know who you are. And so since I know who you are, now I can make the decisions based on, I know who you are, but how am I going to react when this particular things happen? And so one of the things is, I am absolutely a believer in daily confessions. I am a believer in the power of declaration. And this is why, because I am the girl that has sticky notes on places. I have sticky notes in notebooks. I have sticky notes all over the place. I have dry erase in my bathroom that I've taken off. I have dry erase markers and notes all over my bedroom. I have checks written out right now on my desk for the amount of money that I want to bring into my business. I have checks written out for the amount of debt that I want completely cleared. I have checks right now. And with all of that written stuff, it doesn't change unless I begin to declare it over my life. Unless in all the sticky notes, I say, I am enough out loud. Until I say, this is how much Portia is going to bring into Portia Scott Media this year. It's until I hear it, because when I begin to hear it, what happens is it changes the narrative. It changes the internal narrative that is my behaviors. And when my behaviors change, now my actions can line up with the results that I was expecting to get that's on that vision board, or the results that I expected to get in my goal planner, in my journal. But it all starts with that behavior. And so I change my behavior by constantly saying positive confessions, because we have enough of negative confessions. That's the thing we're always trying to fight. You never really have a thing where you're like, oh, wow, bam, that was something positive. Usually when we have a thought, the first thing it goes to is something negative. Oh, you're excited about something. You say, I'm going to put this out. And what's the first thing? Well, how many people are going to show up? Are you sure you want to really put that out? And this isn't other people. This is our internal narrative. And that's why it's so important to have daily confessions where you are saying it out loud, not to yourself, out loud to yourself. So number one, what are you afraid of? Call that thing out. Call that thing out. So then it can no longer hold you and hinder you any longer. Thank you so much, Tammy, for joining, darling. It can no longer hold you and hinder you. Call out that fear. I'm fearful of that I'm going to lose everything. I'm fearful that I'm going to lose this relationship. I'm fearful that I never finish anything. So if I put this out, people are going to know. I'm fearful of that I'm going to succeed. Whatever it is that you're afraid of, y'all already know who's coming. Y'all already know who's coming. No, he does not understand that this is a professional podcast. I know, and here he comes. Good, okay, baby. Go ahead. Because I want to hear it.
That's what I was thinking while you were saying that.
Yes.
Here's why you want to call it out.
Okay.
Because when you expose it, it has nowhere to hide.
Exactly.
And sometimes fears and frustrations can be lodged and hidden in the crevices of our soul.
That's right. You better say it.
You see it.
You expose
can deal
it.
With it. Expose.
You must not have been on here when I said that earlier.
I was on the throne.
Oh, okay.
Bye, baby.
So yes, when you call it out, it exposes it. And that is the thing. So I dare you, I double dare you that in the comments, you tell me what you are afraid of. What is one thing that you're concerned about? Are you concerned that you're too old to start? Are you concerned that you're too young to start? Are you concerned that you don't have enough resources, that your pedigree, that you don't have enough degrees, that you don't have enough money to start? Whatever your start is, are you afraid that love will never come nigh you? So you're afraid to start even dating or talking to anyone? Are you afraid of friendship because so many friends have already hurt you? And so you don't find yourself friendly because you want to make sure that you have a barrier between being hurt again? What is it that you are afraid of? I dare you. I double dare you to put it in the comments and say what it is that you're afraid of. You know, the reason why I'm double daring you is because if you put it out and you expose it, that is the very thing that every day you're saying your confessions, you're saying, fear, you no longer have hold of me, and me trying to find new friends, and me letting people into my life, and me going after what it is that I want to go after. So once you expose it, once you put it out, it has no control over you. And so you have those positive confessions. You have those positive confessions that go in and superimpose that negative narrative that you have been telling yourself over and over and over again. We are no longer going to tell ourselves these negative narratives any longer. Listen, we're in the house, and I know it feels extremely overwhelming. I know it feels like we will never get out of here. But what if your mind gets out of quarantine before you do? I mean, what kind of decisions can you make if your mind gets out of quarantine before you do? The thing is, so many of us are obsessed with the quarantine is because honestly, in your mind, you had already been quarantined, but now your whole body is there. But I can tell you, my mind is no longer in quarantine. I am not in quarantine. I'm telling you, I have new confessions. I have new declarations on what it is that I'm going to do, of what it is that who I am. And so does that mean that every day is easy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you change your perspective on the day. You change your perspective on the situation. You change the perspective on you. And when you change the perspective on you, people see you now in a new way. You teach people how to see you. So when you show up, they treat you the way that you have taught them to treat you. And so, one, we want to make sure that we say, what are those negative thoughts? Number two, we want to make sure we have a positive confession that is going to superimpose those negative thoughts that we have. One of the things that I think that is so important is that, one, you got to make a decision. You got to make a decision, beloved, because it's up to you. So I don't care how much content you consume. You can literally watch my lives every single day. And until you make that decision, nothing will happen. You, my love, have to make the decision. You, darling, have to make the decision that, you know what, I'm going to take it one day at a time, but I'm going to take me a confession. And my one confession is that I am speaking life over my life, that I'm going to speak into my life that you can get up. That's it. You're going to get up, girl. You are up. You are walking. You are running. I am going to speak over my life, but it is your decision. I don't care how many motivational speakers you listen to. I don't care if it is Lisa Nichols, which I love so much and I listen to her. I don't care if it's Oprah. I don't care if it's the social impact and all of the things that we have. I don't care if it's the sermons that you hear on church or what you heard at the synagogue or what you heard at the mosque, but you don't follow it and you don't make the decision to wake up, to show up, then my friends, it's all in a decision. So then you'll just be almost gluttoned with content, but no way to get that out. And that causes frustration. It causes overwhelm. It causes stress because what's in you never got out of you. And somebody is waiting for what you have. And so the other thing that I would say, that if you say, you know what, Portia, I'm ready. I have said what my fear is. I'm going to get me a positive confession. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to go and grab me an accountability partner. You know, I would have to say the last year for me has stretched me in a way that I didn't know that I could be stretched. But I have an accountability partner. For me, my husband is my accountability partner. I also have one of my really dear friends that actually produces the podcast. He is an accountability partner. And so what I do is I tell them what I want to do, and they hold me accountable to that. They bring it up. Or when I needed to send something out this week, and my husband was over here, and I said, I need you to kind of talk me through this. And he talked me through it. And while he was sitting here, it went out. And so whether you need that friend to be copied on the email that you need to send, whether you need that friend to be on the telephone with the phone call you're going to make, whether you need them to hold your hand, it is okay that when you start, that you rely on somebody to hold your hand. That is perfectly okay. okay. When you're starting, when you're trying to figure this out, when you have made a decision, I'm coming out of fear. I'm going to speak positive. I'm going to speak life over my life. I'm going to show up in my life. It's okay to have somebody to walk with you along the way. And so, and number 3 really is developing that rhythm of doing something new, right? So when you make that decision, when you just said your fear, when you make that decision to do, guess what? It's not just today's decision, it's every single day's decision. So if you have to put it in your phone, if you have to give yourself a reminder, every day I have a daily declaration in my phone that reminds me what it is that I'm supposed to say at a certain time so that I can say it. Why? Because I'm human and I forget. And so if you think that people just remember everything, they don't. And so let me tell you what my daily confession is. And you can steal it too if you want to, but these are my daily confessions. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on my land in season and to bless all the works of my hand. I will lend to many nations, but borrow from none. Deuteronomy 28:12. Whether or not you're a believer or not, let me tell you, you better confess this. You may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord, for it is he that gives you the ability to produce wealth and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to my ancestors as it is today. Deuteronomy 8:7-18. Being confident of this, that he that began a good work in me will carry it out unto the completion of Jesus Christ. Philippians 1:6. Those, my friends, are my daily confessions. I say them every single morning, every single day. There is a reminder on my phone. So if you need to put a reminder on your phone so that you develop that rhythm of doing something new, my friends, then go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and put what you need on your phone as a reminder. Go ahead and put that sticky note on your bathroom wall as a reminder to say it out loud. Don't just look at it. Say it out loud. Confess it so that you remind that fear that, hey, you are exposed now. You out here, buddy. So you no longer have a hold on me. I'm going to say those positive confessions. And I'm going to have, if I'm going to make the decision to show up every single day. I got to make a decision to show up. And then when I've made that decision and show up, I'm going to grab me an accountability partner. And so that is what I have for you today. I'm super excited about you guys just showing up. And I know we've been doing the show for about 2 weeks. And so I want to know, are you taking any of the tools of the show? In what areas of your life are you trying to apply them? And I can help you, whether it's through the show or whatever. But I really do want to know, is it helping you? Is it helping you? I know it's helping me. I know it's helping me. And so all the time. So I appreciate you guys so very much for logging on. One of the things I always want to make sure that you guys know is that we love to keep in touch with you. And we also have two-way texting. So that's important. We just got that. But if you text the phrase wake up to 31996, that's wake up to 31996, you'll be alerted whenever a new podcast episode goes live for encouragement, for inspiration that you need. You'll keep up with what we're doing here. If you text the phrase wake up to 31996. Also, make sure that you like the Portia Scott page. And if you enjoyed this broadcast, if this broadcast helped you, make sure that you share. We thank you guys so much for being here. As always, we thank you. You guys are so amazing. I love hanging out with you guys, but I do want to leave you with this as one of my declarations. So I want you guys to remember this, that you're confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. Meaning, let me tell you, as long as you were born, there is a call, there is a purpose on your life. And until you take your last breath, that it is going to come to fruition. You work the work that he has for you, that your purpose, that your calling, that your destiny is waiting for. And so you guys, we will be here at the same time. We end every show with this declaration. This declaration, literally, we end every show is waking up is automatic. Showing up is intentional. Today, we will show up. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.